entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Welcome to the Rational Mail. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather today. This is Rollo Tomassi. I am your host today. We're going to be doing a sort of a special episode, I think. Trying to get back into dealing some of the basics of the red pill. First one is, of course, the desire dynamic. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. There we go. Thank you. Okay, enough of that nonsense. How's that go? How are you guys today? I'm my voice sounds a little strange. It's because I am fighting something off. I don't know. I've been keeping some really weird hours. It's primarily because I am deep in the weeds with book number 4, and I have weird hours right now. When I'm writing, when I'm like really in it, and I'm really in it right now, it's like a sickness. It really is. And sometimes I do get sick. So if I'm a little hoarse, please bear with me today. Or if I'm a little low energy, you'll know why. So there we go. I wanted to do a episode on the desire dynamic. I'm not sure I have ever really covered this or dedicated an entire show to this. It was one of the things that was on my list of topics that I wanted to do with Pat Campbell when we first started the Rational Mail 101. It is definitely one of the it's at the top of the list at the in the Great Big Book of Everything that I showed you last week. And the reason for that is it's desire. The idea, the notion of desire is a lot bigger than just getting laid. It's what do you really want to do? What does a woman really want to do? What do you really want to do? What does really anybody really want to do? You can even distill this thing down to a question of free will, almost. I think. I have watched a lot of, I think it's Sam Harris, or he's not the only one that talks about this, but there's a school of thought that maybe free will is not quite as endemic or as characteristic to us as we would like to believe. The jury's still out on it. I do not for one minute believe that we don't have free will, but exercising free will is a whole nother thing. And I'm sure you guys have heard the very characteristic maxim in the manosphere, and it's also part of pickup artistry, which is David D'Angelo is famous for saying that attraction is not a choice. And so when I heard that for the first time, I think I was probably contemplating what real, genuine desire was really all about. And so I wrote a post called The Desire Dynamic. And in that post, of course, I said that genuine desire cannot be negotiated, meaning that I can put a gun to your head and make you want to agree with me or do what I'm telling you to do, but I can't actually make you organically, unsolicited, let's say, want to do something. I'm sure if money were no object, we would like to do things that are different than, say, go to work, or if we had the leisure to not do our to shirk our responsibilities, we probably would in favor of something else. So why do you do what you do? There's also a post that I have, and it's also another concept that I probably should dig in a little bit deeper to at some point, but it's called the crisis of motive. And I came up with that post way back in, I think 2013 or 2014. And I can remember the reason I came up with that post was I was having a discussion with one of my poor girls, and she would say something like, well, I wear this outfit, or I wear, like, she would, she wears sexy clothes or whatever, a good looking girl, right? And she would say, oh, I wear this stuff for me. I don't wear it for guys. I don't do it for you. It was like it was really, the reason I picked up on it was because it was really, there's a parallel to it, I think, in feminist thought, which is that, women, strong, independent women, are never supposed to do anything for the express pleasure of a man. Now, we know that women will do that, but if you're going to live the ideal life of a strong, quote unquote, strong, independent woman in that narrative, then you're not supposed to be doing anything for the express pleasure of a man. In fact, you'll hear feminists say this: well, I don't exist for your pleasure, right? I don't, when they complain about the male gaze, I don't exist for your pleasure. I don't. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Gunning. Like, yeah, Taylor Swift's new video is kind of eye opening too. She's caught the disease. I will be surprised if she doesn't have a sort of a Skrillex haircut pretty soon. But there's this idea that we don't, or we shouldn't do anything for anybody else. And I think I was talking to Andrew Tate about this, and I asked him one time, I said, do you believe in the idea that you shouldn't care what anybody thinks about you? And he agreed with me too. He says, no, I think everybody at some point, and we're social animals, and yes, we're animals. At some point, to get along in the world, we have to care about what somebody thinks of us. Well, why do you? I've talked to Tanner Guzzi about this as well. As he's got a really great book called "The Appearance of Power," and he talks about like appearances. And so, if you don't care what other people think about you, then why don't you simply just go to a job interview in your pajamas, or go to a wedding in just jeans and a cutoff tank top? We do care. And I don't think that there's I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest with you. But the idea of the crisis of motive is, why do you do those things? Like, why do you wear what you wear? Why do you do it? Why are you interested in the things that you're interested in? Of course, the main question that I was trying to answer in Crisis of Motive is, I had so many guys saying, well, I don't care what women think about me. If you do, there's something wrong with you. I go to the gym because I want to be healthy, and I want to be able to lift heavy things, and I do it for me, right? I go to the gym for me. I don't go to the gym to look good for women. No. It's like, dude, come on. You're like, there's a reason why you do that, or the reason why you get started. I'll tell you right. I'm not ashamed to say. I mean, one of the things that one of the reasons I got into playing in the LA Hollywood metal scene back in the late 80s into the early 90s was certainly not because I wanted to save Tibet. It wasn't, sure as hell wasn't for the money, because there wasn't any. There was zero money. I did it because I love the music and I like to play it, of course, yes, and I'm an artist. But let's be honest, it was a way to solve my reproductive problem, and solve it. It did. So getting laid was certainly the incentive. Now, there's other reasons why, but I'm not going to lie and say that wasn't a motivating factor in it. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be playing that music because that's what I was into. But I wanted to get laid, and I certainly achieved my goal. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing something for yourself, but be honest with yourself at least. What is to thine own self be true. Understand why. If you're saying, well, the only reason I do this is because I have this real driving passion for the art or for my work or for whatever. Okay, but there are side benefits to that as well. So if you go to the gym and you're saying, I do this for me, and I lift heavy things, and I look good, and I compete in bodybuilding, whatever it is, and you don't even have to compete in bodybuilding. But let's just say you go to the gym because benefits for you. Well, there's also side benefits that come along with that. So maybe it is for you, right? Because maybe you have noticed that since you've started going to the gym, or you started changing things about your life, so you change your mind about yourself, that, people pick up on that. That's the first thing guys will say when they go from being either skinny or fat to being in shape, is suddenly they're getting more interest in, they're having conversations, they're getting more indicators of interest, and they don't know what to do with those so most of the time, because they don't have a game, and they don't have any, either the social intelligence hasn't caught up with the attraction factor for them. But it's okay, man. It's okay to do that, and we want to do those things. I just to finish that story about crisis of motive. So I was talking to this girl, and I said, she's like, I wear these clothes for me, like, real skimpy outfits. And I told her, I said, so if I went over to your house at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you would be dressed up like this, like vacuuming the apartment or something, like, so you do it for you, so you're gonna wear all. And of course she would say, no, but, having any kind of like self-realization is really kind of difficult for most women as it is. But that sort of prompted the idea of the crisis of motive. Like, why do you do what you do? Why do you want to do what you do? And that's where desire comes in. Desire is something that I think can be mythologized a little bit, but I don't think that we can. And this is the deeper side of things. I'm gonna don't worry. I'm gonna lighten things up a little bit later on. But I think that desire is something that is like one of the key elements to just really, life, or getting the things you like. We always say that, you can't control other people's behavior. You can only control your own behavior. Or when I say you can't negotiate desire, that's the key. Actually, that's probably one of the quotes I'm known the best for, is you cannot negotiate genuine desire. And I came to that because I had so many guys back in the early days asking me, Rollo, how do I get the frame back? Or I'm going to counseling. We're going to marriage counseling, because he too wants to rekindle the spark. I can't get my wife to have sex with me, so we're having real problems. We're going to go to marriage counseling. And the first thing any marriage counselor tells a couple is, it's usually the reason that there's sort of marital problems is because there's a lack of communication. Well, okay, once we get past this idea that there's a lack of communication, it's not really a lack of communication, it's really a lack of desire. Or it could be that there's a quote unquote lack of trust, or a lack of comfort, or fill in whatever lack of that a guy has to use as his qualifying element to get a woman to do what he wants her to do. And that's what I think a lot of guys miss the boat, is they think that they can negotiate desire. And a lot of well thought of people, a lot of psychologists, a lot of clinical psychologists, including Dr. Jordan Peterson, believes the same thing. It's all about, hierarchies. It's all about dominance hierarchies and competence hierarchies for men, until you get into marriage, and then it's all about negotiating. No, it's not. It's about real desire. It's about genuine desire. And, he's sort of suffering from his own background with his wife and everything else. But, and maybe suffering is the wrong word. He simply lacks the experience that a lot of other guys have. Like they follow it. They go, yeah. Like, that's the kind of, like, when people say, well, you need to go, come to the table and have open communication, and then you can negotiate what, well, we're all both rational, we're both rational people, right? So we can sit at the table and we can discuss how we're going to solve our problem of sexlessness, or problem of trust, or whatever the problem is, in a rational, reasonable fashion. And the fact is that women don't operate that way. We live in a gynocentric social order. That social order doesn't operate that way. It focuses primarily on emotion, because when we prioritize women's needs, when we prioritize the female way as the correct way to interpret not just the society, but the world and our personal relationships and everything. When we say the way that women do it is the right way to do it, and guys are always trying to play catch up. We're always trying to play makeup to that. And at the same time, we're told that we're all, the blank slate says we're all the same. We're all, we're all equals. We're, a woman can do anything a man can do, right? Well, so therefore she must have the same faculties for reason that a man does, or she must prioritize rationality and reason in the same way that a man does. And that's simply not true. And in the meantime, we're focusing on the emotional states and the feelings before we really touch on the rationality of things. I'm writing about this. This is it features prominently, let's just say, in book 4. But Dr. Everett Piper made the observation a while back about how our political discourse and our social discourse, really, particularly on college campuses and such, is focusing on feelings before facts. Like, was it feels before reals? That's what we call it in the sphere. And so we're supposed to try to adjust for tone and make people feel comfortable and everything before we get down to the actual pragmatic nuts and bolts rational reasons for why there is a disconnect between you and your wife, or you and a female controlled society. Why is that? Well, we got to cover the feelings. We got to think of feels before reals. And the real problem is not the emotional side. It's that the reals tend to create the bad feels. So the desire to want to be with a guy, or to want to have a relationship with that guy, or the desire to be involved in a family, or desire to be in a tribe, whatever that tribe is, or the desire to be at your job. Maybe that's it. Like, why do you feel like you want to do the things that you do? Why is it intrinsically rewarding for you to do the things that you desire to do? Because I can remember, I talked to a lot of guys who are still in this case, but I can remember when I was working a 9 to 5, and I didn't own my own business, and I didn't set my own hours. And really, I would go to work just so I could get home. And most guys do this so that they can do the things that they want to do. My dad always told me this too. My dad said, well, you need to have a plan B, in case your plan A, which was like being a rock star, right? Doesn't pan out. So you have some base of support. And sometimes let me tell you something. As much as I would say that that's probably pragmatically true, I would say that sometimes not having a plan B is your plan A. It's burn the boats behind you and hope for the best kind of thing. Which is probably, in hindsight, is probably what I should have done back in the day. But why do you want to do what you want to do? Most guys, most people, most men today, if you are in just regular old Western society, you probably do this. I'm going to sound a little bit like Aaron Clary here for a second, but you probably pile into your car in the morning, and maybe you get to the gym, maybe you don't. You suck down some coffee. You get to your job before you go through rush hour. You got to commute, right? So you get to your job. You put in, if you have an average job, you put in maybe 9 hours a day. And let's be honest, it's 9. It's not 8 hours a day. You're putting in 9 hours a day because you're there for an extra hour on the lunch hour that you don't get paid. And then you fight your way through traffic to get back home, and then maybe you go to the gym, maybe you don't. Then you are presented with another set of problems to solve, which is usually what's going on with your kids, or what's going on with your wife, or what's going on with your family in some respect. And then if you're lucky, you might have an hour before you go to bed. If you're not completely exhausted, you might have an hour, you might have 2 hours to pursue something that you really enjoy, or that you really desire to do. And to do that thing, that were you free to do it, and money was no object, and family was no object, and responsibilities were no object, that you would would love to just play golf all day, or I would love to be on my snowmobile all day. I would love there to be some damn snow for me to be on the damn snowmobile. But the things that we want to do, that's to actually be able to do that. It's a rare gift, I think. I want to be a writer now. There was a time where I would take every free moment that I had when I was working in the alcohol, I still do, but when I was working in the alcohol industry full time, there's a lot of downtime. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of downtime in my old gig. And so that's where a lot of my writing came from. That's where the blog came from. That's where my discussions came from. People say, well, you spend a lot of time on Twitter. Well, yeah, because I'm waiting around for something to happen, or I'm waiting for somebody to give me an approval on something. So in the meantime, I'm going to use that to my own benefit. And I started writing because I wanted to write, not because I'm like, ooh, I can make a whole lot of money at this if I do. Or it's, now maybe today in 2020, I'm doing okay as a result of that. Back then, I didn't have a book. I had a blog. For a while, for the better part of my writing, like if I've been writing for 20 years, I've had a book for 6 of those 20 years. And most of my writing was back on the SoSwap forums, and then it was my blog, and occasionally other people's comments threads and things like that. I wasn't even on Twitter until like 2011, 2012, I think is when I got on Twitter. So it was because it was sort of something I just wanted to do. I felt a desire to do it, and so that's what I did. I was trying to sort things out for other guys who kept hitting me up, so that's what I did. And I wanted to do that. I didn't do it so much like that I would like give up a weekend to do it, but I felt like it was something that I had to do. Like to this day, I've heard Stephen King say this. He says that writing is sort of like excrement for him, and I don't mean like shit, but like something you excrete, like your hair or your nails or whatever, like the things that sort of just are part of coming off your body, kind of thing. And I think I now understand what he meant when he was saying that writing for him was like it's something that just has to come out. And so, I think was it Charles Bukowski said something to the same effect, that if you don't feel the need to do it, then don't do it. If you're forcing yourself to do it, then don't do it. But if it's something that you have to do, or you feel that your desire is such that you have to do it, then that's what you do. So that applies to my desire to write. Now you might have something that's different. Maybe you want to be, your desires to create music or create something. Mostly, I think a lot of our natural desires tend to be creative desires. And I think that that's one unifying aspect of humanity is our creativity. People will say, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Well, if you got up this morning and you dressed yourself, you have a creative bone in your body to some degree. On some level, you have creativity in you. You just, maybe you have never developed it, but you do, hopefully. What are you asking me here, brother man? Will your new book go into the differences between Bible's teachings on intersexual dynamics and that of the evangelical church? Oh, yes. Yes, it will. That's your answer. Yeah. The book is going to be like I said, book is another labor of love, and I'm doing it even though like I said, it's sort of like a sickness to me. Like when I get into like writing mode, I have to do it no matter what. And I don't know. I think in a different way, I think, when it sort of overtakes me. What do you got here, brother? Says, you touch upon it here. Bugs me. Conservative, gender aware guys bending down to women. Listen to Dave Ramsey drives me nuts. Yeah. Exactly. I think Dave Ramsey is that he's the Christian finance guy, right? Pretty sure that's the same guy. And I think that's funny that you bring that up, because you've got guys who really want to to do the right thing that they've been taught. You know, I want to be good. I want to be a good steward of my money, so my wife will love me. You know, or it's because I want a good marriage and a good solid family that I am a good steward of my money. Competition anxiety is superpower. Yeah, we talked about that. Talked about dread this time last week. Oh, what a conversation that ended up being later on. Of course, as expected, people took that and ran with it, and you know, completely missed the point, or never really watched the entire stream, or never really read any of the 6 essays I've written on it. It's like, really, if you're going to come at me, or if you're going to have a take, I'm going to be Jim Rome right now. If you're going to have a take, you do your homework, please. You know, come at me, but come correct. I'm all about it, but come correct, please. Okay, so I wanted so here's the deal. One of the reasons why I decided to do the desire dynamic this week is because I wrote a post in between all my other writing. Like I said, it is excrement. It has to come out of me. I wrote this post. Let me see if I can call it up for you guys so you can also partake of this. There's my share screen. Let's see, it's not that desire dynamic. It's this one, right? There we go. All right. Okay. So somebody sent me this on, I think it wasn't on Instagram. Somebody sent this to me in my DMs on Twitter. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. And this is a meme that somebody put out about a show. It is on Netflix, and the show is called Love is Blind, I believe. I have not seen the show, and everybody keeps okay. Another thing, message heard. I'll watch the show. Okay, you don't have to keep. You don't hammer me with DMs to watch the show. I'll watch the show. It was the same thing when Love Story came out, or not Love Story. What was it? Marriage Story came out. You gotta watch this, Rollo. Check this out. I can't believe it. Ah. Okay. I message received. I got it. I will watch Love is Blind. Now, this is just sort of the meme is kind of funny. Is that, me trying to provide my engineer salary, blah, blah, blah. So this meme isn't actually what inspired this post, but it came at a serendipitous time. There's your vernacular. There's your $10 word for the day. A serendipitous time for something that I was sort of, I don't know, mulling over, I guess, in my head one morning. And I decided to write some of this stuff here that you will see. Thanks, Juan. Much appreciated. And I, let's see. Sorry, I'm catching up here real quick, guys. Okay. Alexander, I see your post. I'll get to you at the end of the show. Again, rules here. Gotta say the rules again. If you have a super chat or a take of some sorts that is specific to our topic today, which is the desire dynamic, then I'll probably read your super right away. If not, then I'm going to save it to the end of the show. Then Sammy is Sam Bada is taking care of the chats for me today. So I came up with these questions here. Does your woman think of you before herself? Does she make your priorities her own priorities? And I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but I'm just going to go through these. Does she surprise you with acts of kindness and appreciation? Does she inherently know that your success is her success? And what I meant by that is, does she, without being prompted on her own, of her own volition, does she know that when you succeed, she succeeds? Does she admire you? We talked about respect and admiration before. I talked about this with Rich. How does she show it? Does she know what you need before you know you need it yourself? Okay. So does she come up, or does she plan ahead for you? Does she make, and not even so much, acts of kindness or her wanting to bang you or something like that. I mean, like taking care of things that she thought ahead of, that she knew that you would need for you to succeed, for you to continue on. Does she care to know about who and not just what you are? I talk about this all the time as well, is that most women, and I would venture to say all women, really certainly in the beginning of a relationship, certainly in the attraction phase, the arousal phase, don't necessarily care who you are so much as what you are, or the character you play, or you could say the job you have, or the way you look, or whatever. But does she care to know who you are? Have you ever had a woman want to understand like your hobbies, or to actually maybe take them up herself? We talk about that all the time. Like I think Donovan Sharp's talked about this before, and I've certainly talked about it with the guys on Rule Zero, is that most women will adopt the likes and the preferences and the things of the most dominant male that they know. Sometimes it's their father, sometimes it's their boyfriend, sometimes it's their husband, sometimes it's the guy that she just met at work, those things. So the reason I thought about this as a question was because I had so many guys who would say, I have all these interests in all these hobbies, but she doesn't care about any of them. She would never, she's never shown in 20 years of marriage, she's never shown an interest in really anything that I like or I enjoy or whatever. And their marriage tends to be rooted in just, convenience, but also rooted around the kids and having at least, it's not that they have a bad marriage, it's just that their marriage is pretty much focused on the children, and then they don't know what to do with themselves once the kids are out of the nest. That's why you get what is called gray divorce right now. The baby boomer generation, the boomers, are experiencing this a lot right now, because they're together because it's what they're supposed to do. And they have a goal, and they're good at the goal. And the goal is achieved. They don't know what to do with themselves, and they don't know who the person is sitting across from them, and they usually don't care to know. So that's why I asked that question. That was on this list. I said, also, does she? Well, yeah, before I continue, like when I say, does she care to know who you are? Who would give? I've asked this before. Who would give a better eulogy at your funeral? Would your wife know you well enough to give an accurate account, or like write your obituary, an accurate account of who you are and what you did in your life? Or would it be your best friend, or your brother, or one of your best buddies? Who would be the one who would know you well enough to do you justice in your absence? Most guys I have talked to said that their wives would not know. They would want their best friend, like the best guy friend, to talk. And you know what's funny? Their wives would probably be okay with that too. So, does she take the time to learn about or participate in the things that you're passionate about? That gets back to what we were talking about. Like, what do you genuinely desire to do? Does she share that desire? Does she look forward to having sex with you? That's, of course, a key element. Does pleasing you please her? I threw that question in there because that's also the sort of the feminist, like I was saying before, the strong independent ideal is to never do anything for the express pleasure of man. Usually it is men's responsibility to ensure romance, to keep it fresh. Whenever you hear whenever you hear on Oprah or Dr. Phil say, you have to keep it fresh, or you hear a guy say, what is it? Relationships are hard work. No, a good relationship is actually effortless. It's not hard work. Okay. Like, a lot of people get thrown off about that. If it was, usually when somebody says relationships are hard work, it's because that guy has based his relationship, his marriage, his girlfriend, whatever it is, he's based that on his performing up to his qualifications, his qualifying to this woman. Even after they've been married and they've had kids and everything, his relationship is defined by an endless quest to qualify to her, make enough money, be the kind of person, to in some way figure out what she thinks is her ideal hypergamous optimized guy, and be that. So when you hear a guy being, usually it's beta blue pill guys who will say, well, we're working on a relationship. The guy who's working, the person working on the relationship is him. And the person who is defining what success or failure is his wife, pretty much. So it's never, and working on a relationship, like, I don't think really applies to women, because women are the ones who are the one that has to, usually in modern times anyways, has been real since the sexual evolution, has been the woman who defines all of that. So that's why I put that in there. I said, just pleasing her, please you, or pleasing you, please her. So I threw that in there also. And then finally I put, does she do any of these things with genuine desire? That's the operative in this whole thing. People really like this. I got a really good response on traffic wise. This is just shot through the roof. So if you, I put the link in the description here, so you guys can go read it if you want to. There's a lot more to it than just that, but it's a pretty tight essay, for, if I do say so myself. It's a pretty tight essay. So the last thing, of course, is does she do any of these things with genuine desire, or is she fearful of your displeasure? Or, and then this is the flip side. These are the flip side questions here. Or is your woman high maintenance? How many times have you heard that? High maintenance. Is your relationship defined by how well you can keep her happy? Like guys will say that, like even Chris Rock will say, you look in the mirror and you got to tell yourself, let's get out there and keep this bitch happy, right? Or you can bang a woman with a diamond dick and it's still not enough. Even very, I don't get too specific, but even very rich men who weren't rich before and become rich, though their wives of 20 and 30 years still aren't satisfied with the way things, usually it's lifestyle creep that indicates that. But what happens is, I think for those guys, is that the woman marries the guy or gets with the guy out of either convenience, or he was Mr. Good enough. He'll do good enough for now. And then he makes good. But her original initial impression of him is he's just good enough. And no matter what that guy does, he will never be the apex ultimate, her hypergamous ideal. And so the guy goes through life, and he goes through his marriage, and he goes through his relationship and the marriage and everything else built around the frame. And I've said this before, is when the frame that you enter into a relationship with is the one that sets the tone for the rest of your relationship with that woman. So her initial impression of you is something that is really hard to change. That's why women, when a guy decides that he's what we call awakened while married, he wakes up to what's going on in his life, or how he sees himself in the role that he was prepped and engineered for, and he doesn't like it, and he wants to change something about it. Usually it's because his wife starts having sex with him, and he wants to figure out how to turn the sex back on. And so he's got to change something about himself. But in the process of figuring out what he needs to change, he realizes that, he's been the beta in waiting. He's been the guy who was good enough, and he fills a need, but he's not the guy that she would say, he's my Prince Charming. He's the best I can do. And so he sees that, and he starts, and usually what guys will do is they'll make a really radical change. And then the problem with that is that women see that immediately as him sulking or being, like a child, or if the guy wants to have sex and suddenly he starts doing dishes, things that he thinks that, if I do these good deeds, then I'm going to get laid. Most guys go through a phase where they do that until they realize that that's bullshit. It doesn't work either. So, that initial impression of you is really tough to unseat, I think. And then what happens is, guys will say, well, it's not worth it. It would be time better spent to go find another woman and impress upon her who I am now than it will be to get with it, to change my wife's or my girlfriend's mind about who I am. And so they break up, and that's that. But that's kind of the way things go. when guys are trying to play catch up and they're trying to put her first, and that's actually a key element to this essay. So going on, it says, is pleasing her or avoiding her discomfort your mission in the relationship? A lot of guys make her happiness, not his, her happiness, his mission. And I actually added this. Of course, everybody's probably already aware of the 16 Commandments of Poon. I wish there was a better name for that, but it's such a seminal work by Royce back in 2009 that I quoted often. And one of those commandments is, actually, let me just go down to it and read it to you. Don't play by her rules. Now, this is one of the commandments. It's commandment 4. It says, if you allow a woman to make the rules, she will resent you with a seething contempt even a rapist cannot inspire. The strongest woman and the most strident feminist want to be led by and submit to a more powerful man. Polarity is the core of a healthy, loving relationship. If you don't take anything away from today's stream, this is what you need to take away. Polarity is the core of a healthy, loving relationship. Not communication, not making her happy, not desire for sure, but polarity. You need to be confident enough in your own identity to push back, and most men simply aren't, because most men are necessitous of love, necessitous, unidealized love, necessitous of certainly sex, but necessitous of something that they like. What I find fascinating right now, this is a little bit of an aside, I'm sorry, but like when I was telling you before how women don't, the prime directive of feminism is never to do anything for the express pleasure of a man, because doing so is a failure at being independent, because that's what independent is independent from men. We don't teach men to be independent of women. In fact, we teach quite the opposite. We teach men to mold their lives and change their lives so that they can be more acceptable and be a good. We make it men's duty and their liability to prepare themselves to be a father, to be a husband, and to keep it fresh, to constantly live up to a burden of performance, which we all have. I'm not saying that's not a good thing. It's just how that burden of performance is directed is what I'm talking about. So is your burden of performance met because it's something that you have a genuine desire to do? Like, what do you like? Most men don't decide what is success according to their own burden of performance. It's usually an outside factor. It's usually doing something good at work, or doing something good for your dad, or doing something good for your family, or maybe it's your mom, or maybe it's making someone proud. It could be your kids, making your kids proud, making your wife proud, making your wife want to admire you, and doing all this. Again, the crisis of motive. Why are you doing this? Why do you do the things that you claim to have a passion about? And so the burden of performance doesn't change. Guys are always going to have that, because we base a man's value on his competency, and through that competency, whatever it is, we establish dominance hierarchies. So, like Royce has already said that, there are way back in the day, he said what did he say? He said there's groupies, there's groupies for every male endeavor except for World of Warcraft. And and now I would say probably there are actually groupies for guys who are good at World of Warcraft. But what he was implying is that be good at something, play to your strengths. And in fact, that was in the 16 Commandments of play to your strengths, because even what you might think is the nerdiest thing in the world is still going to, by someone, be appreciated, and you can be the best plumber in the world. You can be the best, whatever. My dad used to tell me that. He said, I don't care what you are, just be the best you ever been at it, or the best that there is. Okay, well, I'm going to be the musician. No, not that. It's it's this desire to at least exceed and excel at something. And we've always said, what's the, there's the idiom, just do what you love and the money will come. No. I wish that were true. I wish that were true. But still exceed in the things that you enjoy doing. And usually that you're playing to your strengths, you can do that. But anyways, let me continue a little bit more here. She says he says I see polarity is the key. She does not want the prerogative to walk all over you with her capricious demands and mercurial, there's another $10 word, mercurial moods. Her emotions are a hurricane. Her soul is a saboteur. Think of yourself as a bulwark against her tempest. Most guys are terrified to tell a woman no. They're terrified to do anything like that. And that's why the 16 commandments are so, I guess, revolutionary. Let me keep going here with some of the rest of these questions here. So is your woman's success more important than your own? The reason I put that in there as a question is because we teach our boys to put women first. And I explain that, again, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I explain that in detail in this post about how, as we are creating a society of boys who we raise as defective girls, part of that raising of that generation is raising a generation of boys who then become defective women whose only burden of performance in life is to put her first, to make her happiest, to be serviceable. We see this in not just secular society, but I see this a lot in religious circles as well. It's old order thinking in a new order world. Are you the sentimental one in the relationship? I ask that because I have a lot of guys who will say that, their wives or whatever aren't, like, for all the complaints about romanticism or romantics, which of course men are the true romantics. Let's just be honest here. When you think of acts of romance, a man came up with that. A man will design to create a romantic situation. Women don't do that. It's on the guy to create romance. In fact, that's why Dr. Phil says, "Oh, I gotta go and you gotta keep it fresh." And the way you do that is you do date night, of course. That's my Dr. Phil impression. And which is nonsense. Remember, polarity is the key to a healthy relationship. Knowing your identity, I'm not saying that you don't be her complement. I'm just saying that you maintain your identity, she maintains hers, and your complements while you are in that. While you certainly cooperate, but you're complements to one another, and she is a complement to you. Again, I said a long time ago that a woman should only ever be a complement to a man's life and never the focus of it. That's in book 1. So go look that up. You'll find it there. And again, I did that because so many guys and follow along with this list is they make their women their mission and not themselves and not their passions and not the thing that they might have 1 to 2 hours a day to do, to actually have something to do. Do you plan? So anyways, the sentimental side of things is like most guys will say, well, I'm so sentimental. I keep I keep her cards and her letters and everything. And I feel like I'm the chick. I've had guys, I had a guy tell me that his friend was getting, he said he had a friend that was getting married and they were in some sort of casual conversation. And his fiance said, I feel like I'm the man in the relationship and you're the chick. And the guy laughs, because we're equal partners, right? No, that's her subconscious saying you're the plan B guy. You're not the guy that I would be choosing, but you're the he'll have to do guy. Medium is the message, and that's another show I really got to do is medium is the message at some point. But so you get this guy who simply doesn't see the writing on the wall. He's probably headed for a pretty bad experience, I think. But most guys are wondering why it is that, like it used to be this in sitcoms and like family sitcoms back in the 60s and the 70s. The joke was that the old, patriarchal husband always forgot he was so forgetful, and he didn't really care. He only thought of himself so much that he didn't think of her needs. And he would always forget anniversaries. And then so you'd have this comedy, skit built around him, like rushing to get a card, or, oh my gosh, I've got to remember my anniversary. It was the stupid guy thing. Now, that's not how it works. Now it's like, because women are not invested emotionally in that relationship, they're in that relationship because it's convenient for them, or for whatever the reasons are. There's no desire to maintain romance. There's no desire to be the sentimental one. Usually in any relationship, I would hope, I'd like to think in my relationship, like, we're kind of like, I'm not the most sentimental guy in the world, but I've done, what I thought was, back in the day when I was young and stupid and idealistic, I did a lot of very what women would go, oh, Rollo, romantic gestures. Now I'm just kind of like, I do them when I do them. And I'm only aware of me being less sentimental today because my daughter is like, well, you got to go get mommy a card for Valentine's Day. And it might be the actual day that I'm doing it, right? Whereas before, when I was young and idealistic, I would plan ahead. Hell, I proposed to my wife on Valentine's Day. So there's your dirt on Rollo for for your $10 super chat today. So usually there's someone in the relationship who is the more sentimental one. And I think increasingly you're seeing it being guys who are more sentimental. Certainly men are the true romantics. We're the ones who have to come up with the romance. Do you plan ahead to ensure she'll be in the right mood? It's another thing. Do you perform chores in the hopes that it will make her amenable to you sexually? This is the chore play thing. I talked about chore play before, I think. The idea that it was popularized and then depopularized and then repopularized, and probably will be depopularized again because it makes great clickbait. But there's always I can guarantee you, every like 2 or 3 years, you're going to find an article that says, well, women make passes at men who wash glasses, or like, if you just did the dishes, or if you just helped her around the house, or if you just changed the diaper occasionally, she'd want to bang you more. So what do guys do? They're like, all right, let me get that way. Hey, baby, am I going to get lucky? And so they see that as, because most guys are, men are deductive problem solvers. If a woman says, I'd be more in the mood if you would just do more chores, that guy's going to do everything in his power to reinitiate the sex, to get a woman to be into it. So he's going to go, and if you say, this is the plan, this is the formula, this is the process of me wanting to get with you. It's not, back when they were dating, back when the guy was single and they were, screwing like rabbits, it wasn't because he was washing glasses. It wasn't because he was doing dishes or doing the laundry or changing diapers. It was because she had a genuine desire to like screw his brains out. So, when a guy goes from a lot of sex to no sex, he's going to think as deductively as he possibly can. And if that's the process, he's going to be the best at it that he can be. Do you believe your relationship is or should be an equitable one? This is the egalitarian paradox. Too many guys, I think, and I've talked about this before, so I won't drag it out, but too many guys think that they need to have sort of an equitable, like equal partnership. Women, I'm reading that a lot lately. It's like, we have an equal partnership. No, you don't. A woman cannot look up to you if she is your equal. A woman cannot admire a guy in the way that she needs to admire that guy to have a satisfying relationship with that guy if she can't look up to that guy. If he is beneath her or he is her equal. Again, that's why hypergamy doesn't work that way. Remember, hypergamy never seeks its own level. It's always seeking, it's not happy even at its level, but it's never seeking anything below its level. So if you think that you are at her level, or if you think you have some sort of equal partnership, I will guarantee you that the dominant partner in that relationship is her, not you. Let's see. Does her family take priority over your own at holidays? I get this from guys as well. where they have not seen their own side of the family for a very long time, or they'll be in these relationships where they moved to facilitate being closer to her family because she still is tied to the apron strings. And usually women will do this right around the time that they get pregnant. Well, I'm pregnant. We're going to need my mom around to help us out with the baby. Doesn't that make sense? So let's move back to North Carolina, wherever you are. Let's move back to my hometown and we'll buy a house or we'll rent a place that's just down the street from my mom. And then we'll have built-in babysitting. Don't fall for that. Never, never, never fall for that. If you are the primary, if you are the dominant partner in your relationship, she should want, like I tell guys, I've talked to, what was it? I discussed this with Pat Campbell once, that when it comes to desire, that woman's desire to be with that guy needs to be so strong that she will leave her family. It's even biblical, right? You leave your family or you leave your mother and father and cling to your husband and your wife, right? Well, today's women want to be closer to family. They want to, and maybe inherently there's nothing wrong with that, but it never works out the way that I think a lot of guys think that it's going to work out, because she is the one that is the deciding factor. She is the one who's saying, well, we're going to make a move here. You're going to find a job in this city and we'll be closer to my folks. Or Christmas time, Thanksgiving, we're going to go see my folks. We're not going to, and most guys will lie down for that because they think that it's like the more they acquiesce, the more relationship capital that they earn, which never pans out. So, is your relationship based on a quid pro quo? This for that. Are you doing things for her because you think that it's going to pay off at some point? Do you do the kids' homework? Do you read to your children? Do you change diet? Like, again, it's a chore play kind of thing, but it goes beyond that. If you, because you believe you are in an equal partnership, do you make concessions for her that you wouldn't make in any other context? But do you make those concessions because you think that later on down the road she'll appreciate that and you'll go, well, she's bound to remember that I made this decision to make her happy by moving here, doing that, or thinking about her career, so putting her first. Well, I put her first, just like my all the female teachers I had in kindergarten through college, told me that I should do is put her first. Surely she'll appreciate it at some point. It doesn't work out that way. It never works out that way. Is she ever surprised by you being angry? I put that in there because most guys will get pissed off at some point, or they'll realize that they'll do exactly what I just said. They'll realize that it's not paying off, or that there is no appreciation, or they, or maybe it has nothing to do with the girl. Maybe it has some sort of situation happens. I mean, you could be at a restaurant and not like the food and get angry, or somebody cuts you off in traffic or something like that. There's a lot of ways that guys get angry. When you get angry, does that shock her because it's out of character for you? Because she expects you to be predictable. She expects you to be a certain way. Is your relationship perpetually a work in progress? I already talked about that. Is your relationship success defined by qualifying to her metrics? Like, is she the one who is the judge of your performance? Do you measure the quality of your relationship by how well you meet her needs? And that's where I'm going to end that part of today's. There we go. Kick back. Okay, guys, I'm going to catch up with your supers here. What's the last one here? D Lamb says men should focus on their mission and not their women. Yes. Well, okay. Yeah, you're right. Do women have genuine desire? I guess you're saying issue tests to their men. When it comes to shit tests, which are really fitness tests, I think I've done a few streams on shit tests. Most of the time, shit tests are sort of an innate part of women's subconscious. Like they don't realize that they're doing them. It's not, are there shit tests that women go, I'm going to try this and we'll see if it works. Yeah, of course. But for the most part, I would say the majority of shit tests are ones that are unconscious, that she doesn't realize she's doing. Most women will say, I don't test. And you can show them test after test that they give to guys. And usually they're based on two things. Or there are active tests and there are sort of passive tests. Active tests are the ones where you're in the club or you're at the bar and she wants to see if you can play the game. She wants to play with you. She wants you to play with her and play with her. And so she wants to figure out, are you a player? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know women? And so if you did, and you're an alpha guy and maybe you look that way, but she still wants to play along with you and rib you and sort of test you. Those are active tests. And those tests are there to determine veracity, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. Are you who you say you are? Is what that comes down to. Like, is this a guy that I can test? But is this guy who he says he is? Then that's active testing. The passive testing is usually what happens when you're in a relationship already, and a woman is trying to settle her hypergamous doubt. And hypergamous doubt is he the best that I can do? And it's a constant question women have after they have decided that this is going to be the guy that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, or this is the guy that I'm going to be in the long term with. There's a part of her hindbrain that never quite, unless you are like so far above her in sexual market value, or you're so far above her in, performance, whatever it is. And even then, even Brad Pitt gets shit tested. Even even Amber Heard tests Johnny Depp. Now, she's crazy, but you get the picture, you get the illustration I'm using there. Is even the guys who other people would say, oh, he's so good looking, how could she if he can't do it, then nobody can. Well, that's because all women shit test. And they shit test because there is that doubt. It's like, is he really the best I can? I know he's Brad Pitt, but is he really? It's like Superman. It's like that joke with Superman, like the guy, like this couple. I have it somewhere. It's Superman laying in bed, and this chick who's like half naked is on the edge of the bed, and the joke is he really the best I can do? And it's funny because it's true. It doesn't matter what your quality. Like I said, you can bang a girl with a diamond dick and she's still going to wonder if she can do better than Superman. So that's the passive test. So usually passive shit testing is like nagging. So there's your $20 answer. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, man. Hold on one second while I back up a little bit here and I look at, what is this one? Catch up a little bit here. Let's see. YOLO says, hi, Rollo. If a girl don't have genuine desire, arousal for you from the beginning, is it anything a man can do to make this desire? I get asked this a lot. So are there means to stimulate natural arousal, natural desire for a woman to want to be with you? And yes and no. You can't negotiate it, but you can put yourself into the best light possible. You can put yourself into a position where you can generate that. If you don't believe me, ask any guy who's been fat or skinny or whatever, gets to the gym, puts on muscle. And this is the easiest illustration of this. Like, they go from zero to hero. Now they've inspired genuine desire in a woman. Wow. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, are there ways to do it? Yeah. I mean, that's the most obvious way. Are there other ways to do that? Yeah, of course. You can learn game. You can become more pro-social. You can go get a promotion at work, and suddenly desire changes. So is it genuine desire is the real question, though. So is it prompted desire? Is it something that she's, suddenly she's happy for a little while and now she's not? There needs to be something that the guy provides that she can't get anywhere else, or she perceives that she can't get anywhere else. Now, I understand that a lot of guys are, especially the guys who are like the looks maxers and the guys who just think everything is boils down to the physical and that game doesn't matter. I talked about this a few weeks ago. There is something to that, of course. Like, women get aroused by a guy who looks like he's, a Chippendales dancer. Got it. Okay. What about after that? What comes after that? What happens when that guy inspires genuine desire and then doesn't just inspire it anymore? And that's the trick. And I think a lot of guys really get upset about that too, because it's particularly tradcons. Tradcons will throw out the idea that if you're failing as a man, if you're not the best version of yourself, then you deserve to get cheated on, or she should be able to leave you whenever she wants to because you failed in your performance. And so it becomes this constant. Then, of course, the opposite to that is the guys who say, well, I don't want to be a dancing monkey. I don't want, I need some relief. I need to come home and be free of the stresses of trying to make her happy and everything else. It's like, all right, well, just like Royce says, is that at some point, if you're going to engage with women, you're going to have to entertain them. You're going to have to be, and women have to entertain you too, or they should anyways. Most guys don't see the two-sided nature of this, because they think that if I'm a dancing monkey, then all that means is she's just going to sit there like a little queen and a princess and, clap or boo, depending on what it is that I do. And they don't see the opposite side of it, is if she gets fat, single mommy, and, unsexual, whatever, well, that makes her less entertaining for you. So, but most guys won't do that, but they don't understand that because they can't get in a relationship in the first place to even think about that. So they beat themselves up like, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not, whatever. They simply don't see the reason for it. And if that's who you are, if that's what you're about, then you probably shouldn't get into it. You probably shouldn't decide. If you enjoy wallowing in your own self-pity, please, by all means, continue, because it takes you out of the mix. I hate to say that, but it's true. If you get off on your self-defeat, then you're probably better off not attempting it until you get your head straight, until you can decide what it is that you want to do with yourself. So is there so is there anything you can do to make desire? Well, you can't. Attraction is not a choice. And I still think D'Angelo had it's not his real name. I still think D'Angelo had a point in that, but I don't think he really understood attraction entirely. And are there ways that you can inspire attraction? Yes. Can you inspire genuine desire? That's a long-term question. That's a long-term answer to a short-term question, is what it is. So let me look a little bit further down here. I got some other ones that I missed, so I'll come back to that, and then we'll get into sort of the nuts and bolts of all this. Let's see. Oh, geez, you guys, thank you for all of these super chats. I'm going to do my best to catch up to every last one of these. Let's see. Math Boy says, what do you think about the black pill? Do you think it's over for guys who aren't considered sexually attractive? It's over for guys who give up on themselves. Yes, it is. And like I was saying before, if that's your nature, if it's more pleasurable for you to beat yourself up and watch 7-hour streams about how you'll never succeed in life and how life is unfair, well, by all means, keep watching those. Stay in your lane. If that's where you want to go. So I think what the black pill is this. Black pill is simply just the red pill, and guys don't know what to do with that information. They can't process. It's almost like the red pill, but like guys get stuck. And I've described it like this: is once you become red pill, and once you see really sort of the nature of the game that you're involved in, you have two choices at that point. You've been cut away from the blue pill, and you don't believe the pretty lies anymore. And I will say this, all the guys in the black pill communities are very much very based, right? They get it. Their analysis is great, just like MGTOWs, it's great, just like incels, it's great, just like MRAs, it's awesome. They get it. They understand the mechanics and what's going on, but it's what they do with that information later. And it occurs to me that the guys who are in the black pill community simply don't know how to cross the abyss. They don't see the opportunities that are available to them in a red pill paradigm to use that information as a means of building themselves up and living a better life. They would rather wallow in self-pity. They would rather watch endless streams about how fucked up life is for them and how they'll never get a girlfriend. How they want to be incels. They want to be where they're at. So that's pretty much my take. They can't cross that abyss. The abyss is sort of getting over the nihilistic phase. It's getting over the despondency that comes from realizing that, oh my God, I'm never going to be that good looking. I'm never going to be that guy. I'm never going to be that. Well, yeah, if you keep telling yourself that, yeah, you probably won't, and you probably should stay where you're at. So, let's see. Niles Lindquist says, you touch upon it here. Bugs me. Conservative, gender-aware guys bending down to women listening to Dave Ramsey. Okay, so I talked about that already. I talked about Dave Ramsey. Juan says, thank you for your service. Thanks. Thank you, Juan. Much appreciated. Tiger the Brave says, competition anxiety is super powerful. Yes, it is. Talked about that in Dread. I should probably do a Q&A about Dread at some point, just so people will understand that using a term like dread or competition anxiety or sexual tension or those words, those terms that have a connotation to them that people, I don't like the way that sounds. Well, fuck you. You know, I don't like the way a lot of words sound, but they're useful. When I talk about how women's approach to love is opportunistic, I always try to preface that by saying, look, I realize the negative connotations that come from saying a woman is opportunistic about anything. Well, women are all prostitutes and gold diggers. No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that that's the mechanics that are involved when women are approaching or investing emotionally in a guy. There you have it. So dread is what it is. If you want me to call it, motivated interest in a person, okay, fine, but it still means the same fucking thing, which is dread. So, and now that we're past the hour mark, I'm going to swear a little bit. Alexander says, €5 says, how do you find a balance between showing intent and eliciting desire versus not being needy and not treating her like a star? A hard part of the game indeed. Okay, well, how much do you pursue and how much do you not pursue? A lot of guys would like to tell you that you shouldn't pursue a woman and it should all be on her. And I would say that is, you're cutting yourself off at the knees in certain situations. A woman wants to be pursued by a worthy guy. She wants to be flirted with by a worthy guy. She wants to play the game with a guy who knows how to play the game and a guy who just gets it. But he also has to be, cute and funny and all the other things that go along with that. So, so there's a desire on the part of women who want to be like wooed, I think is the old word, right? They want to have a guy or multiple suitors seeking them out. And if you don't believe me, just go and look at all these great shows like The Bachelor or what was the one? There's a new show that just came out, and it's a new crazy slapstick take on dating in the 2020s. And it's women who are inviting 5 or 6 guys into their house to compete for it's basically little miniature versions of The Bachelorette. So you've got 5 guys who are living in the same house, and they're all trying to get with the same piece of ass, and they're not even that great piece of ass. And we're gonna laugh and cry, and who's gonna get voted out of the house? That's not a recipe for disaster, but that's where we're at. So, for as much as women want to say that they are looking for equality and they want an equal partner and everything else, then we go and we see stats that show that women are concerned that they can't find a guy who is economically attractive. They can't find a guy who makes 58% more money than they do, or is more educated, or has more status than they do. They still want that, right? So all this bullshit about an equal partner is exactly that. It's just bullshit. And if you don't believe me, I can show you all these great popular TV shows that women just eat up, that are based on exactly that, based on a guy pursuing or having the intent to, at the end of that show, put a ring on it. Now, of course, it's all scripted, yes, but that script is still based on an innate desire to see that happen. It's the same thing with romance novels and all that other good stuff. So how do you finding a balance between showing intent and eliciting desire? I got asked about, like, how do you go about doing a push pull, or what's the point of a takeaway, Rollo? I'm not a big fan of defeating last minute resistance. One part I will always disagree with about the early pickup artist techniques is finding ways to convince a woman through psychological methods, to convince her to do something that she doesn't really have 100% desire, natural, genuine desire to do. Can you inspire desire in a woman? Yeah, you can. You can motivate her psychologically. My guys, manipulative guys do it all the time. We can motivate desire. If you don't have sex with me, I'm going to go bang your best friend because she wants to have sex with me. There's dread right there. There's anxiety. And of course, I'm not saying go do that or say that, but that is a way to inspire dread. But remember this and that's all. I should say that overtly, in an overt fashion, that's negotiating dread, or negotiating desire. It's saying, it's issuing an ultimatum. And most women pick up on this already. They understand that they have to play the game because they know that they are also in a state of competition. That's why I call it competition anxiety, with their sisters. So when a woman gets to be 22, 23 years old, she's at the top of her game. Usually that's when she has the potential to be at the top of her game. And if she becomes a good competitor. But that's not to say that there aren't other competitors who are competing for the top shelf guys too. Because there's a trade-off here too, is that because we live in what I call Sadie Hawkins world now, where women have to be the aggressors and the initiators now, that puts them into a state of competition for the hot guys, the cute guys. And all the rest of you black pill guys, all the rest of you suckers, all the rest of you blue pill beta guys, go jerk off or go listen to Face and LMS for 7 hours and feel better about yourself, whatever you got to do. But stay out of their lives, stay out of the mix. That's what they want, Sure, okay, great. But women are in also a state of competition, and most guys don't understand that. They think that because they're the guys and they should be the ones initiating, and they should be the one, because in a state of evolutionary, natural, animal, wild kingdom shit, men compete for sexual access to the best quality women. Men display, women choose. That's, if you read this great book here, which I know Rich Cooper's reading it because I've been reading your text lately, and I know that this is what you're getting at. Fantastic book, Promiscuity. Usually in a state of, unsolicited organic naturalism, I guess. It's men who tend to be the ones who display, and women are the ones who choose. Well, guess what? Because of feminism and because of the great sexual revolution and because we're just screwed up animals, we flipped that script. That's why I said we live in Sadie Hawkins' world. I don't know if you guys you probably don't get that reference. Sadie Hawkins, if you've ever been to a Sadie Hawkins dance, it flips the script on girls in like junior high school. So they have what's called the Sadie Hawkins dance, and the girls have to ask the guys out, and the guys have to be the ones who are like, "Oh, okay, yes, I'll go dance with you." Girls don't want to do that, but that's what we're changing the world into. We're making women the ones who have to compete for the top shelf guys, while the bottom shelf guys go pound their pud. Okay, there you go. So that's what I mean by when I say Sadie Hawkins' world, but women still want to be pursued. They still want to feel desirable, and that's how they get that, but they have to be felt. Again, guys will always say that like attention is, women just want attention. They're all about it. I've said this myself, is attention is the coin of the realm in girl world, but certain attention is worth more than other attention. So Steven says, do we marry a girl with a higher SMV, good looking, a nice body, and young, or one who has stronger genuine desire for us? Good question. But is less attractive given other conditions that are the same. Okay, so Stefan, you're going to get to a point here. Well, you're actually coming to a point that I was going to get to anyway, which is that what prompts genuine desire for a woman at one phase of her maturity is not the same thing that prompts it at another time. So yes, and this is going to really piss off the black pill guys. So yes, when a woman is between the ages, her most desirable, when she's between the ages of like 18 and say about 26, 28, somewhere, let's just say 28, so that 10-year stretch right there, her priorities and what she finds genuinely desirable in a guy has a set of priorities. Usually at the very top of that priority list is the guy who's jacked, is the guy who is ripped, the guy who has the cute smile and his facial symmetry and the perfect jawbone structure that we're all going to go and look smacks our freaking jaws for. All of that stuff. Yeah, that's what she's at. That primarily, that's at the top of that priority list. That doesn't mean that there aren't other things that are on that list. That's just the one that's at the top. When a woman gets to be in her epiphany phase, that priority changes because her needs change. So her genuine desire, women will say this all the time. I've grown up, or I've changed, I've matured. They make up all these great rationales for themselves during the epiphany phase. Of course, I need to get right with God because I've learned my lesson. Well, learning your lesson is something that like women like to cling to, the idea of learning a lesson, anyways. Because it makes them sound more mature. It makes them sound like they're wise of the world. And so, well, I've dated the jerks and I've dated all the guys that Sheryl Sandberg told me that I should, and now I'm looking for an equal partner, right? So the equal partner becomes the priority because their necessities have changed. Their designs have changed. Their plans for their life have changed. And they know that having sex with the cute guy that used to rock their world back in their college days when it was so crazy is not forthcoming anymore. Not as much as it used to be. It's not like they would it's not like they would turn down a guy who's super hot, but they're also prioritizing a guy who has some benefits to him, has some value added. This is where women really women can square the circle of cognitive dissonance pretty easy, but this will be the most amazing part right here, is because while women will be happy to have the hot guy, they'll still know at some level of consciousness that they need a guy that has some kind of benefits, and they'll try to force fit that good looking guy, that hot alpha that won't commit into the square hole that he's going to be a good provider, and he's going to, like, again, it's trying to find the best of both worlds. Like I keep telling you guys, when it comes to alpha fucks and beta bucks, hypergamy, women would love to be able to find the guy who is the best representation of both of those. But failing that, they will do one of two things. They will go and they will find a guy who is the best of the alpha fuck side and the best of the beta buck side, and they will try to find some sort of dual. They don't care about the cognitive dissonance, or they'll go with the guy who is the best looking, best sex that they've had and try to force fit that guy, tame the alpha, Tarzan and Jane, Beauty and the Beast, try to make that guy into her beta buck's ideal. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And even when it does work, it changes him fundamentally from what she had genuine desire for into something she has no real genuine desire for. So at certain points during a woman's phase of maturity, if you want more information on this, I wrote about this a lot in Preventive Medicine. It was my second book. I put a timeline out there, what women generally speaking, you can expect from them, but also the priorities that they apply to different aspects. And it's those priorities that inspire a genuine desire. So you can inspire genuine desire. You can, You can, what is it? You can serve something up on a silver platter, or you can serve it up on a dirty, trash can lid. And so what do you want? How do you want to do that? Let me see what else I got here. Yeah, one of those. Okay, so remember, genuine desire. A lot of guys start with the guy. It starts physical, and usually it does, and they're right about that. Like it's usually like I want to have hot monkey sex with this guy, and yeah, that's where genuine desire starts. But again, like I was saying before, is that there is I'll say litmus, not litmus. That's not the word. There is a priority, list that women are need at a particular time in their lives. So let's see. D-Lam says should focus. Yeah, okay, we talked about that. YOLO, I got to you. D-Lam again says another question. How? Oh, here it is. Another question. How would you recommend men learn how women don't have negotiated desire? Okay, so what you have to do in this case, D-Lam, is realize when you are negotiating desire. As I've said like dozens of times before, is that most blue pill beta guys don't realize what they are doing, and they think what they do should work because most blue pill guys look at their blue pill training, their blue pill conditioning as a means to an end. So then when they get to a point in their lives, sorry, I'm getting choked. When they get to a point in their lives where they wake up to that, the first thing that they do is they look back and they go, man, I can't believe I believe those things. I can't believe, I read Rollo's book. I've been getting into this red pill stuff, and I can't believe I used to think that way. Those are, that how manipulative and evil. Like we want to apply, morals to the whole thing. But really you were just playing a part in a larger scheme of things, a larger game. So what I suggest guys to do, and this is just true of anything with the red pill, is you have to be mindful. You have to be self-aware of why you have to ask yourself, why do you believe the things that you believe? Why are you trying to negotiate? Are you trying, for instance, if you're a blue pill guy and you get into, like I was saying before, chore play, if you think that by doing these certain things that the woman will in some way be inclined to have sex with you because you wash the dishes, because you helped her out around the house, whatever. If that is something that you believe, you got to ask yourself, why do I believe that? I think it's funny is because most women will say, like, when a school shooter loses his shit and he shoots up the high school because some girl dumped him, the first thing out of most feminists' mouth is, well, nobody owes you sex. Well, that's fine, but why are you implying in other areas such as chore play that if I do these things, then I will get sex? Because men are deductive and women don't realize that men apply reason and they're not applying emotion. So women want to be able to come and go and to choose, and like we say, the female prerogative, they want to be able to have their cake and eat it too. And most of them are proud about that whole thing. They're proud to have proud to say, I'm going to eat my cake and have sprinkles on it too. So look here real quick. So what I would say is you have to be aware when you are negotiating. So like chore play is a negotiation. Saying, okay, if I do these things, then you're going to have sex with me. You're going to have genuine desire for me. The problem with that is that when you negotiate desire, it only leads to obligated compliance, if any compliance at all. So that's what we call when I mention the word duty sex, and I do quite a bit in book 4, what that is it's the sex that Christian wives are supposed to have with their husbands. They're supposed to do that. They're supposed to do it because that's in the Bible. It says, do not deny each other your bodies. Do not deny each other. And that's part of it. And so you get these articles by Christian female ministry writers who will say, well, ladies, sometimes all it takes is just, you got to just grin and bear it. It's just another chore. You got to do it for him because the Lord said you're supposed to do those things. That's your duty. It's your wifely duties to have sex with the guy or your husband, whether you want to or not. If he wants to take you right then and there, you should be able. To me, like growing up with the way that I did, I understand like when I use the term duty sex, women lose their minds now because they're like, oh, if a woman should never have to have sex with you if she doesn't want to have sex with you. That's rape. That's marital rape. So we get into discussions about enthusiastic consent and something. If she's not just tearing your clothes off, then it's tantamount to rape, and that you're going to see that conversation crop up a little bit more. But most guys want a simple answer to a complex question, which how do I get my wife to want me, to have a genuine desire for me? And that's not something that has a simple answer to it. You've got, I don't know who your wife is. I know basically what women want, but when you say, well, you have to have sex with me because the Bible says so, or you're obligated to have sex with me. Hey, guess what? I did the dishes. We said at the marriage counselor that if I did the dishes, you would have sex with me. So spread them. What you're going to get starfish sex. You're going to get are you done yet sex. It's not going to be inspired. It's not going to be genuine desire. It's going to be obligated compliance is what it is. And after a while, that obligated compliance leads to resentment and regret and probably marital rape charges. Like I was saying before, I'm not a big fan of the pickup artist idea of defeating last minute resistance, because I would much rather be with a woman who is genuinely attracted and desirous to have sex with me than to have something that mitigates it. I talked about a little bit about this in when I was Iron Rule of Tomassi number 3, which is if a woman makes you wait for sex or by her actions implies that she is making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. When I say that, when people read that, when guys read that, the first thing they think of is what? She has to like have the same night. All women have to be a same night lay. Oh, you must want really easy women. No, that's not what that post is about. That post is about genuine desire. What is mitigating that woman's genuine desire of you? Is it because she has a better prospect? Is it because, she's thinking about something else? Is it because she's weighing her options? Most of the time when a woman is making a guy wait for sex, it doesn't have anything to do with getting right with God or anything. It's usually because she doesn't want to have sex with that guy because she doesn't want to invest what would be necessary to get with that guy when she has other options. Like I said before, and I know this is a really tough red pill to swallow, is women break rules for alphas. They break rules, their own rules. Yeah, whatever they are, whatever they have, they break those rules to get with a guy who their hindbrain says this guy would be my hypergamous optimal guy to get with. So anything that isn't that guy feels like cheating on that guy. Anything that isn't moving her towards something that she has like that genuine desire for. And women make rules for beta males. They make more rules because there is this back and forth that goes on in women's head. I've talked about this before. There's conversation and the inner turmoil that women have when they are getting with a guy who is not the guy that they have a genuine desire for in the physical sense. The guy might be a great provider. He might be a good dad, whereas she wants to bang the good cad or the guy who's hot and fun and goes rock climbing with her. I don't know. So you got this. So why? I don't think I've said this before, and I coined the term or the quote. Women break rules for alphas and they make more for betas. But I think that what happens is guys will get into a relationship, and this is sort of answers your question here. Dilemma is like, is she making more rules for you? Well, if she is, it's usually because she doesn't see you as sex with you as urgent. She doesn't see a relationship with you as urgent. Whereas if she's with the guy who's the fun guy and the foam cannon party, she'll break rules for him. She will make an effort. Like I was saying before in the questions here, she will do things to facilitate getting with that guy. So that's the first part right there. And I think it answers that other guy's question a little bit too, is like, when it comes to negotiating desire, the first part of determining whether you're doing that is you just look at what she's doing. Is she breaking rules to get with you? Does she really want to bend over backwards to make, in a world that tells her never do anything for the express pleasure of a man? Is she just throwing that away? Is she just putting that out of her? Yes, I don't care about any of that. I want to please this guy because he's the one for me. He's the guy. He's the best I can do. So is she doing that? If not, then what is mitigating that? Ask yourself. And then what happens is you have to ask yourself, so whatever's mitigating, am I putting up with this? Am I trying to negotiate? She said she won't have sex with me because she's making me wait, or she doesn't, usually there's some mitigating factor. She's making me wait. Okay. Well, the reason she's making you wait is because you're not worth breaking rules for. So guys, really, that's tough. That's hard when they get into a situation. They think, well, she's being prudent and she's religious and she has convictions and she's not easy. For you, yeah, she's not easy. There's a million players out there right now who will tell you about how they got with the church girl. There's a million players out there who will tell you about how they nailed the bride to be on her bachelorette party night. There's all kinds of that's the beauty of the internet, man, is we have access to all this new data. This is the new order data I keep telling you guys about. So we can debate on whether she's genuine in her convictions, but we have her behavior to go on. The medium is the message. And what is that medium telling you? And that's another way. How do you learn how women don't have to negotiate? Again, what is her medium telling you? I got to keep going here, man. Is there any other ones in here? Oh, Mike. I missed a few of these. I'm sorry if I did. Oh, what's this one? John Garcia. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. I need a sound drop for my board here that says I appreciate. What is this one? Mr. Chekhov says, I got a girlfriend who is a virgin, living together for 1 year, does many things sexually, but not the actual deed. For living together for a year, and she won't have sex with you. Okay, so this is exactly what I was just saying. Claims it's painful. We have to stop every time. I'm torn between believing her and suspicious that I'm being played. If it's been a year, you're being played. And remember what I said before about how women, when it comes to genuine desire, it's based on whatever their necessities are, with a necessitousness. Her necessity right now is she probably sees you as something that's comfortable. She's probably still trying to sort out for herself that whether or not she really wants to be sexual with you, or she really wants to give herself to you. And that is, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was another key point I wanted to make. Is I have, at the risk of repeating myself, I've had these instances where I've listened to my poor girls, and they'll of course say, well, they'll have these conversations where, would you have sex with the guy on the first night? The other one says, yeah, of course, unless he was boyfriend material. So the guy that they would break rules for is the guy that they have genuine desire to bang on that night, because they don't want him to get away and they don't want to miss out on that really hypergamous opportunity. But if the guy is showing signs that he would be a good dad and would be somebody who is boyfriend material, then they would make him wait. They would insert rules for that guy. And one thing that I think is another really hard lesson for guys to learn is that women can go an entire lifetime with the same guy and never really give their all to that guy, never really lose themselves in that guy. I'm going to give you a really quick story here to sort of illustrate what I mean. I had a woman actually talking to me about her father. Actually, no, it was her grandfather. Her grandfather who had just died, or died maybe like a couple weeks prior. And she was relating to me this, I guess, sort of lesson that she got from her grandmother. And this woman's from an entirely different generation. I mean, we're talking like probably born sometime in the 30s, maybe, I guess. And the grandmother was talking to, trying to give this worldly wisdom to the granddaughter. And she said, there are just certain parts of me that Fred, whatever his name was, could never get, will never have. I will never share with Fred, that she did share with another guy who came along before Fred. And I had to process that a little bit, because here's a woman who went through life pretty much with a guy who was not her hypergamous, genuinely desired ideal guy. He was the guy who was just good enough to do, and she never found anybody else who was, better than him. And so she stuck it out with him. But their relationship, their marriage was defined by her being reserved, withholding what she would freely gave to a guy who was her alpha ideal. And if you've ever watched, there's a Katy Perry song called "The One That Got Away," and if you watch the video, I actually wrote an essay about it. If you watch the story that goes along with that song, she's pining for, she's basically an alpha widow, although the character that's in, I don't know if maybe it's probably Katie herself, but there's a woman who is at the end of her days. She's in her 70s or 80s, and she's looking back on her life, and she's, remorseful, or, remorseful, I guess is the best one, for never having followed up with the one that got away, or the one that got away, the guy who was her alpha ideal, tragically died. It's like one of those 50s, tragedy movies. Like, I did it for Johnny, like, he died at Dead Man's Curve. He'll always have my heart. Sorry, honey. It's like, if you've ever watched the end of Titanic, where the main character, was Rose, where Rose is old, and it actually starts with her being old, and she's got that big fat diamond that she just drops in the ocean too, because that's the heart of the sea, or what, I don't know whether the hell, but that's her heart. And it's symbolic because nobody ever had her heart except for Jack, who's dead at the bottom of the ocean, and his bones are just completely picked. And he's, but she goes back at the end of her life to go and get with the one guy who has her heart, because here it is. It's actually symbolic. I've got the diamond heart in my hand, and I'm going to sacrifice it to the ocean. But in the meantime, we see pictures of her successful, well-lived life. She became like Amelia Earhart, and was this daring young woman, got married and had kids, and her grandkids were there. But we are led to, or we're left with the impression that even after all of that great lived life, which I would presume included another husband because she has grandchildren, that guy that she had that life experience with and had that great life with was never as meaningful as Jack, who is literally her alpha widow. He's dead at the bottom of the ocean. And so at the end of her life, she's, sort of recounting everything, and he's the one that got away. Katy Perry, he's the one that got away. He's the guy that she had genuine desire for and will always have, and he has something of her that she can never share with any other guy. And when I talk about alpha widows, I don't think you guys really appreciate the depth. I mean, the lifelong depth of a woman who is an alpha widow. The part of her that her beta, good enough guy will never have. But that guy the plan B, the beta, the good beta in waiting, he believes he can get there. He believes that through his series of qualifying to her, doing whatever, that he can in some way inspire in her that same kind of desire that she had for Jack at the bottom of the ocean, Johnny who died at Dead Man's Curve. That's the real tragic part, because we teach our betas in waiting, our guys who if they live the right life and they think the right things and they follow the blue pill script, that and they're quite forgiving. They want to put her first, right? And they meet that girl who maybe she's a single mother because she was, with her alpha in her party years and it didn't work out. Now she's more worldly and understands, but her desire is never going to be for that guy. It's never going to be for the guy who forgives all her sins. It's going to be for the guy that rocked her world. It's going to be for the guy. I told this to John the other day, like John from Modern Life Dating. I asked him, have you ever had sex with a woman who's a virgin? And in my 40 plus notch count, I've had 2. And after the second, I never wanted to do that again. And guys will say, well, that's the ideal. You need to find a great, virgin bride. And well, yes, if you're going to get married to the first girl you have sex with and that's your thing, then yeah, you're spot on. There's a reason why we want women to be virgin, unspoiled and virginic, because we become the first guy that has sex with her becomes the guy who sets the precedent, sets the benchmark for what sex is to her. So they always say, you never forget your first. And unless it was like rape or it was a really bad, experience for a woman, the thing is like that's going to be what she remembers as her first for the rest of her life. He was the guy who finally, or for all of her, whether she was easy or whether she wasn't easy, is going to be the guy that goes in her mental history books as the first guy she ever had sex with. For most virgin girls, they bond really quickly with that guy because he's the one that they let their guard down, or he was the one who was worth breaking rules for. I mean, that's really, you look at Titanic, there's another good example. Like Jack was, oh man, he was what? She went and took her clothes off so she could draw me like your French girls. She was ready to do that. She was prim and proper. But Jack was worth breaking rules for because he was her true, genuine desire. And she shared something with him that she would never, ever share with another guy, with the guys that came after. She wouldn't want to betray that. Now, there's a paradox to this. The paradox is, well, how does that gel, or how does that square with the idea of war brides? Because women can easily get over a guy. They've been forced to. I think, as I've said before, nature, evolution selected for women who had the capacity to move on from one guy to the next. Like when in a troop or tribe, whatever, whenever a new alpha male comes into a group of whatever, lions, gorillas, primates, whatever, comes in, defeats the old alpha and kills off all of his kids, the first thing that the females do is they go into estrus because they are ready to reproduce with the next best thing, or the guy who might makes right. Killed off the other guy. Well, let's have his babies. Why does that work? Well, why does that happen? Why is that some sort of commonality, triggered estrus? Why is that a common feature amongst higher order animals? Why does that work? Because it made sense. Well, why is it that women can get over a beta, but yet they still pine for the alpha? Again, it's that finding the guy that is the ideal, the guy who is the hypergamous optimized guy, the best that she can do. So, women might pine for an alpha male, but they will very easily get over the guy who was defeated in battle, the guy who was not victorious. And you guys should probably read Alpha God or read Promiscuity, but when a guy defeats a rival, or his team or his army or whatever defeats the rival army, it's met with a rise in testosterone, and women pick up on that. And I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm just saying that that's the reality of the situation. So, all right, let's keep going here just a little bit more. Okay, I guess I'll get to some of these super chats here. Tom says he showed up. He showed up in heaven, and his wife wasn't there. Yeah, remember that, guys. God, that's funny. Tom Brokaw. In book 4, I talk about the soulmate myth and how it's almost like a pseudo religion right now. It's almost an article of faith for a feminized religion. But even Jesus Christ said there is no such thing as a soulmate, because he said that there's no marriage, and there's no giving in marriage in heaven. So when you get there, your wife is not your wife, apparently, I guess, if you go to heaven. Maybe that's different for, Islamic martyrs who kill themselves and they have 70 virgins waiting for them. Maybe that's a better deal. But yeah, right. I mean, think about it this way. And let's just use Titanic again as the illustration. The guy who thought he had a great relationship, or the guy was just, describing the grandmother who was talking, saying that there was just a part of herself that she could never give to that guy. Yeah, you're right. Imagine let's just say, for sake of our argument, you're in the afterlife, and suddenly she's like, no, you weren't my soulmate. It was this guy over here that I met when I was 20 years old, and I've been pining for it. Now I'm 8 and I died at 90. Like guys, I think there's particularly amongst blue pill guys, there's this romanticized idea, particularly when it's soulmatey. Yeah, gosh, that's a tough one, man. Thank you for that one, Tom. That's better than a $2 chat, I'll tell you that. Let's see. Drapetoman, I guess is what you call yourself. I'm listening to the Red Queen. Good book. I immediately started thinking, what if Red Queen protocol pushes through our evolutionary abstraction layer and controls the need for alpha seed beta need? Boy, I would have to this is a really good question. I would have to explain what the Red Queen protocol is in the first place. There's an idea, I think, Drapetoman, that, and again, this is another thing that I talk about in book 4, is that we're not animals. And I know if Rich is still in the chat, he's sort of getting shouted down for this too. Is I think there's this idea that that we're something more than animals, and I would be inclined to agree. But most of these guys are hitting it from a very moralistic, they want to moralize. They want an opportunity to moralize and shout down a guy like an evolutionist, which I don't think Rich really is, but there's this idea, anyways, that we are above it all. We've evolved above it, and maybe we have in some ways. When we can change the evolutionary process for ourselves to our liking, it's the future of humanity is not decided by natural elements anymore. It's decided by ideological influences. And that's kind of a weird thought to think, which I do cover in book 4. Are we more than animals? Are we more than that? And if we are, what does that mean for our future? I don't want to get all like metaphysical, new agey crap here, but if we can control our own evolution, then what is that evolution controlled by? Well, our free will, whatever. No, it's controlled by our ideologies. I made this observation that I think it was in China. It was at the CRISPR, the CRISPR experiments, where they have pretty much created designer children or designer genes or whatever, and we can now gene edit in human beings. So if that's the case, we have pretty much said, well, we're going to, as human beings, we find these genes the most desirable, and we're going to select for these genes. Well, now you're taking natural selection out of the process, and it's artificial selection. It's men and women deciding what it is that they think is the most desirable traits in humans. I don't know. This will really all these guys who are looks maxers and everything. This will really bake your noodle. What if we could just simply select for guys who are jacked, guys who are six pack, guys who would be naturally muscular, guys who would be blonde hair, blue eyed master race? What if we could select for that kind of stuff? Now we've removed the natural out of natural selection. So what do we replace it with? Well, we replaced it with what we believe, what we think is our ideology has influenced us to believe is right, what should be done. So that's a deep question. This is like bioethics or whatever, evolutionary ethics, I guess. We have to start thinking about these things because we have the technology, and even though it might not be widespread right now, and it might be illegal to actually do those experiments. It's not. You think that's going to stop people? It's not going to stop people, particularly if you can select for genes that are going to, insure you against genetic diseases and things. Let me see. I got Drape. Who else did I have here? Christian Martin says, I was the defeated beta. It's a struggle to get out of that mindset. Yes, it definitely is, especially when she once viewed you as the alpha. Yeah, I've got an essay, Christian, called Up the Alpha. And I wrote that in response to women saying that what they really wanted was a bit like, I've said this before, and let me put it out there again before somebody rips me off, is it's the build a better beta idea. Is that women love beta males, but they just want a guy who's beta with a side of alpha, right? The guy's predominantly this beta, and he's got a little bit of alpha spark in him or whatever. And I wrote that essay because that guy's never believable. It's much easier to go from alpha, predominantly alpha, to beta than it is from beta to being predominantly alpha, because it's never believable for women because they have that initial impression of you as being one or the other. So if you happen to be beta and you go and you start immediately going to the gym and doing what you think alphas do, like aping the behavior, like fake it till they make it, and you start doing all those things that you think she's going to respond to, she will, though she would respond to those things, just not in you. Yeah, it is. You have a tougher row to hoe. I think I said that right. You have a tougher row to hoe if you are a beta and you're trying to alpha up or up the alpha. YOLO says, hi again. When a woman changes her priorities at 28 and seeks a provider, will her genuine desire be the same genuine desire as for the alphas? No, because what she needs at one point in her life is prioritized differently. So genuine desire for a guy who is a good provider and a good father is prioritized higher at different stages of that woman's life. So if she's running out of options in her epiphany phase, which I've made the case for several times, if she's running out of options, the ideal, her hypergamous ideal, is still going to be the guy who's hot and fun in bed, but she realizes she's not going to be able to continually get that same degree of guy anymore. So she has to adjust her, like older women do. It's easier to see it. Like, I keep using the epiphany phase for this example, but it's much easier to see this in older women. Like when a woman gets to be 38, 39 years old, there is, I think, particularly in this global sexual marketplace right now, there is something that clicks in women's minds that says, I am 1 year, maybe 2 years away from being sexually invisible. I think if there's a wall that women are willing to accept, it comes right about 40 years old. So you'll see these changes. You know, talk about like midlife crisis. It's women who have midlife crisis. because they believe that after a certain time, their expiration date hits. And usually it's way after most guys, 33, 34 years old. I mean, not to say that women can't be attractive into their 50s if they want to be, but not as attractive, certainly not as attractive as they are in their 40s, their 30s, their 20s. So I think that there is a hindbrain understanding in women that their sexual market value, their sexuality, is their only agency with men, and that agency is perishable. It decays over time. It's a depreciating asset. And so at different points and different landmarks in a woman's life, I think they become a little bit more cognizant of that. I mean, it's to greater or lesser degrees. I think probably we insulate women more these days than we used to. Like it used to be back in like the 30s and the 40s. I think it's remember in It's a Wonderful Life how the worst thing that Mary Bailey could be is an old maid. That was like, oh, this is so awful. She's gonna be a librarian and an old maid. She'll never have any kids. She'll never be married. That was like that was it. That was the best thing that a woman could be. And maybe it is still kind of like the best thing that she could be. But the fear of being an old maid was something that I think was natural for women and was just expressed differently back then. Now, when a woman gets to be 38, 39, she has to say, am I with the guy the best guy that I can get? And if I'm not, then I got to pull a trigger now. And so consequently, you see women of that age divorcing their husbands. Usually, remember, divorce happens at the 7-year mark of a marriage, and most commonly at a 7-year mark in the marriage and at a 20-year mark in the marriage. 7 years is usually a woman has had 2 children, and she's lived out those 7 years, maybe 10 years, with the guy who was the plan B, who was the guy who was good enough. And now it's time I've got the kids, I've got him, I've got the support, I'm good for alimony, I'm getting benefits whether I have sex with this guy or not. That's when she has to make a decision whether or not she thinks she can do the eat, pray, love narrative, which is divorce my husband and be happy with a young stud in Jamaica somewhere. And I think we pretty much know how that plays out, but that's when that decision is made. So what I was saying before is that the idea of what is genuinely desirable, like, that woman who's 38, 39 years old, she had genuine desire for the guy that she was with because he represented what she needed at that particular time. Now she's 38, 39, and he's no longer what she desires. She genuinely desires. She's been with the guy long enough to say, okay, he's good enough or he's not good enough. And so what defines a genuine desire for her at that particular time? This is where a lot of black pill and maybe MGTOW really, I think maybe emphasize this is that, well, when when things change for her, she's going to find some guy who's better than you. And unless you're a dancing monkey, she's going to find some other guy. And hypergamy is going to be a straitjacket. And that's the way it's going to be because that's how women are. So just fuck it. Don't even think about it. No, there's ways around it. There's ways to be like, the thing is what's interesting, I think, most guys don't consider is that remember that as a guy, your maximum potential, the best potential you're gonna have. I know some guys will argue with me on the year for this, but right about your mid-30s, maybe your late 30s, that's when your peak potential for your sexual market value is going to have the potential to peak. Let's just say, at that point in your life, you will have, at no other point in your life will you have a better chance to be at your highest mark than at like 36, 38 years old. And if you are, making yourself your priority, making your mission your priority, making yourself your priority, your ambition, you control the frame, you started a relationship from a point of genuine desire. Remember that things happen to women between the ages of, they don't stay evergreen. Okay. Women, when they're 28 years old at the time that they're 38 years old, in that 10-year span, things happen to women as well. and they know that their value decays and depreciates. So that affects the way that they think about genuine desire. That's when women get pissed off about guys who reach a point where they maximize their potential, their sexual market value potential. And then the fear is their husband, their boyfriend, whatever, the guy who they're committed to is going to leave them for a younger model. He made partner at the law team, and now he's going to start banging his secretary. All you guys are the same. They're terrible. Or else it's I can't find any guy to marry me, or I can't. What happened to all the nice guys or all the good guys? It must be men's fault that I'm 38 and childless and single. No, but things happened. Things changed. Things changed that you as a woman did not believe would ever change. And that all of this, I'm sorry, this is the long-winded way of saying that affects genuine desire. Their circumstances, their decaying sexual market value, what she needs, what's in. Granted, yes, there is a biological arousal element to genuine desire, which is why when that woman gets out of that marriage, when she's 39, 38, 39, just prior to 40, she doesn't go look for another guy who is a better long-term provider. What she wants to do is do the eat, pray, love thing. And what do those women do? Well, for the first 6 months to a year, they pretend to be cougars. They go and spread it for college guys, guys, they're happy to do it because they're easy. The woman thinks, I still got it. No, you're just easier than the college girls that this guy's used to. And it's fun. It's the Mrs. Robinson thing, right? I know, I've done it myself. I had a couple of I had my cougars in my life too. Ask me about that. Ask me about the cougars in Vegas. Okay, so we're at the 2-hour mark right now. I don't think I got to I'm sure I didn't get to everybody's question, and I apologize if I did not. Rollo, 538. Politics are saying that Biden has won Super Tuesday. Where does that leave an all-female thing? You know what? If that's the case, I'll be the first one to admit that I was wrong about that. I still think that we are in a gender war, and I still think you're going to see him. Well, Biden's already played up to the feminine imperative. I don't think they know what they want at this point. I'm actually shocked that. Well, here's the thing. I don't think that you're going to see. I think that what they will do is they'll drag Warren, or they'll drag Tulsi Gabbard. They'll find some woman to put into to the vice presidency if that's the case. I think you might see. I don't know. I cannot believe it's going to be Biden, but let's just say for sake of argument, it is Biden or it's Bernie. If it's Bernie, you can pretty much bet that for him to maximize his chances, he's going to bring Elizabeth Warren on. And of course, the message in that will be that, well, look, Bernie's going to die soon anyways, and we'll have our first female president by default. But I'm willing to admit that if that's the case, I was wrong. We'll see how it goes. Delam says, I'm writing a book on my life like we talked about. It shows how red pill theory changed my course in life. I am showing how red pill theory changed life. Are you okay with it? Yeah, of course I'm okay with that. Please do, man. I'll tell you what, Dylan. Here's the thing. What I tell guys is I've had guys at past live events, who will come up to me and say the same thing. Hey, I want to start a blog. I want to start a video channel. I want to write a book about my red pill experience. Please do, and make it as mature and as well written. And you owe it to yourself to make it the best damn book that you can make it. Yes, do it. Ask my permission for it, but please go do it. All right. Who else? Lindquist. Again, what's the prevalence of women in LTRs cheating? They tend to be just flirting. They, unlike men, plan a future while still in a relationship. Yeah, well, you're right about that. When women are going to leave you, the decision to leave you probably happened 6 or 8 months prior, maybe even more than that. And yeah, they plan because remember, ultimately, Niles, ultimately, women are looking for security in the long term. Long-term security is very important. Now, genuine desire, having sex with that fun guy who's the alpha, the inner party years, and the college guy, and all the guys that the black pill guys seem to think are just running around rampant. Those guys, when a woman wants to break up with you, when a woman has decided that you are not the one that she's, who is the best option for her, you're not the best she can do. The decision to leave you happened a long time before that. You can see that, if you go and you watch that movie, Marriage Story, that's almost like a textbook example of how modern divorces happen. The divorce happened before the actual divorce. Leaving the guy usually is just a formality for that woman. And what throws women off during that time is you acting unpredictably. So she's expecting you to behave in the way that led her to decide to be out of the relationship with you. And when you break that down, that's why I tell guys all the time, it's like, oh, I think my wife's going to leave me. I just checked her phone, blah, blah, blah. Or she's planning. I know she's talking to a lawyer, whatever. And I'm waiting for the hit. I'm waiting for the hit. Why are you waiting for the hit? Walk out on your, you're good. Like, I had somebody tell me this one time. This was right when I was breaking up with my borderline personality disorder girlfriend. I said, if you have a best friend, and for a fact that your best friend, when they see you the next time, they're going to punch you straight in the face as hard as they can. Your best friend, for whatever reason, that. Are you going to just sit there and, here you go? Are you going to do that? Or are you going to be the one to throw the first punch? Or are you going to be prepared? That's your best friend. Now, what if you know that your wife has already decided to leave you, or she's giving you these cues and these signs that she's going to leave you? What are you going to do? Are you going to take it on the chin because that's what you think is expected of you? Or are you going to walk away on your feet instead of your knees? I tell guys this. I said, if you're going to walk out, if things are going to go bad for you and you're going to break up with your wife, or you're going to break up with your girlfriend, let's just say girlfriend in this. If you're going to break up with your girlfriend, it's better that you leave her with the impression that you weren't the way she thought you were that led to her to decide to dump you. And so that's like the, leave on your feet and not on your knees kind of thing. Don't beg her back. Don't, if that's the case, accept it and say, you know what? Yeah, have a nice life. And don't be revengeful, and don't be spiteful, and don't, don't pout. Just let her deal with it. Because remember, a woman's imagination is the best tool in your game toolbox. And when you leave that woman with the impression that maybe she's making the biggest mistake of her life by leaving you, maybe it's best that you even are split up. Who cares? But the impression that you want to leave her with is to leave her with doubt. Leave her with the same doubt that she thought she was so sure of. Most women will leave beta male guys because it's pretty obvious. Like he's just not what I want. How many times have I heard that? If you probably don't know this author. Her name is Kate Bollock. She's made pretty much a living off of being a spinster. In fact, she has a book called Spinster. And I remember becoming familiar with her back in 2010. And she had written something for The Atlantic called like The End of Man. Or maybe that was Hannah Rosen. But she was very vocal in how she was a confirmed bachelorette, I guess. She built this entire persona and lifestyle and really revenue stream on being this poor jilted single spinster. And so what happens is that the worst thing that can happen to her is for her to actually fall in love with a guy and have a good, successful life, because it ruins everything she's built up. And I think something similar happens to women when they like for instance, the reason I'm talking about her is because the reason she got into that position of being a spinster is that when she was 28, 29, she turned down the guys who wanted to marry her, who wanted to be a part of her life, who said, hey, let's start a family, let's do something. She's like, no, there was something about these guys, whatever. And she regrets that too. She says right later on that she regrets having dumped these guys or not taking them up on their offer or whatever. And now, those guys have kids and family, and she's alone, no eggs, and made a living off of no eggs. And now I think women are kind of waking up to that. But the fact is that she decided that that wasn't what was right for her at that particular time in her life. And so, she's regretting not having gotten. Now, even whether or not those guys would have been great fits for her, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that women will listen to that doubt and decide for themselves that that's not what they want, and they'll never find what they want. Well, leave those women alone, gentlemen. I think that is it. Did I miss one? I know that there's one I missed here. Let's see. I'm going to rewind just a touch. Plumber, thank you for yours. Everybody who has contributed today, thank you very much. Tickets are sold out, by the way, for Rule 0 Las Vegas. Snooze, you lose. Sorry. They're all gone. You can't get any more, except for the very last one that I have that I've reserved for a freebie that I'm going to give away, or I'm going to give to a very deserving person. But we're done. We are we're over 100 now. I think we might be at 100. And by my calculation, I think we're at 104 right now. So, watch this space. If you have got a ticket right now, that's cool. We're going to be announcing some other, sort of add-ons. I don't know if we're going to charge for. I don't think we're going to charge for any of them. We haven't discussed it. Ryan and I are still deciding on where we're going to have a meetup. I think on Sunday. Excuse me, the 19th of April. And we're looking at a location right now. It's just going to be sort of what I want to call coffee on the couch, right? We're just going to sit down and we're going to talk about things. If you have something you want to ask me or Ryan or whatever, we'll just sort of let the conversation flow from there. And it'll be on Sunday morning. So if you're not hungover from Hot Dude House or whatever it is, whatever happened the night before, I don't drink anymore. So I can tell you I'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So not like I am right now. So anyways, so that is that. Hopefully this was informative for you. You cannot negotiate genuine desire. And when you do, it only leads to obligated compliance. Keep that in mind. Read more. I've got 3 links to essays in the description right now. If you still have questions about desire, please read those. I'm pretty thorough in those. But understand that generating genuine desire, determining that a woman has genuine desire for you, is one of the toughest things for guys to really accept, to figure, to understand that a woman actually is viewing you, seeing you as, at least at that point in her life, the best that she can do, or that you are a high priority for her. And that when you are a high priority for a woman, women will want to have your babies, not just have babies. They want your babies. They don't want to be married. They want to be married to you. When you can add those words to those sentences and realistically mean it, that's when you know you're at least somewhere close to genuine desire. There is no reason for you to be in a relationship that is not in your frame. Because if you are going to commit to a woman, whether that's marriage or in a long-term relationship or whatever, if you're going to have any kind of long-term relationship with a woman, particularly in this day and age, I 100% agree with MGTOWs and these guys that it's a dangerous proposition for most guys. There's going to be ways where, if you won't participate in the feminine, if you won't participate in a gynocentric social order, there will find ways to legislate it so that you will. So if you want to start a family, if you are in love with a woman, the best thing you can, people say, well, what about vetting? What about vetting a chick? The best way to vet a woman is to determine whether she has genuine desire for you. Is she doing things for you in spite of a world that tells her she shouldn't? Does she want you? Does she break rules for you, or does she make rules for you? Those are ways that you can determine genuine desire. You can maximize that. You can be really hot, or you can actually be the guy that she needs at that time, or both, preferably both. And it's not a slog. It's not a dancing monkey thing. It's not you being a dancing monkey if you're doing what you want to do in the first place, and who or what you are is what inspires genuine desire in her. So some things to keep in mind till we talk again on Sunday. Again, the book is, I'm deep in the weeds in the book right now. I seriously, I got up this morning at about 4:00 this morning because I just had to do that. When I get kind of obsessive when I'm writing, when I'm doing books. And that's kind of one of the things I do. Is like I like to, I'm always fresh in the morning. Then I kind of peter out a little bit, I guess. But it seems to be my time to write. So working on the book diligently right now, just so you know. Anyways, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and I guess I will see you on Sunday. I'll be on Rule Zero. Rule Zero will be on John's channel from Modern Life Dating. So put that in your scheduler. I'm working on an interview with a woman named Deepika Bardawan, I think is her name. And she is a filmmaker in India. And she has done a documentary on the gender politics of India. I'm trying to set up a time. She's in New Delhi, so the time difference there is tough. So I might have to actually get up real early so that I can catch her kind of late. So I'm going to do that. I don't know if it'll be a live stream, but it might not be at the optimal time. But I'm gonna see if I can do that, because I really like her work and I like her. I've followed her on Twitter for a long time, so I'm working that out. That could be coming up either this week or next week, and that will be it. Oh, and then Sunday, of course, I'll be on again, same time. 1:30. Well, actually, I think I'm doing it at 2:00. I'm going to do it at 5:00 Eastern on Sunday. Will be the next show. So stay tuned. Watch that. What do you want, Goober? I left my phone on one of your videos at work. A woman walked in. She listened in and said she found your info and admitted it was right. Of course they do. They just don't want you to know it, man. Everything in this book is right. None of you men should know it, because you'll have an unfair advantage. Keep that in mind. Oh, and then while you're at it, go and leave a 5-star review. Guys, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Tell your friends to subscribe. Really close to 35,000 subs right now. It's getting a little better. Engagement is pretty good these days too. So thank you for that. And pass it on. If the Rational Male did something for you, you can see it there at the bottom left of my screen there. It's on Amazon. Give one to your friends if you haven't already, and just spread the word. That's the best you can do. A new book coming up soon. Bye, guys. See ya.